Sonic the Hedgehog has had a resurgence in popularity over the last few years, thanks to the success of the movie franchise. And as a longtime fan of the franchise, it's been pretty cool to see, especially since the franchise has had a pretty rocky history, with the games not exactly being known for their quality, both in storytelling and gameplay. Sonic the Hedgehog was created by Yuji Naka and first appeared in 1991. He was created as a new mascot for Sega, who wanted to rival Nintendo, both in the console wars and in the market share. Sonic was the new kid on the block with a pretty straightforward formula, a platformer that focused on speed, and that's reflected in his first ever game with Green Hill Zone, a zone with multiple paths that encourages replayability. And I think one of the main problems with the Sonic franchise is the fact that Sega has a habit of wanting to reinvent the wheel multiple times. Even though they have a straightforward formula, and in my opinion one that's pretty well tested, they have a habit of insisting on shaking things up even when they really don't need to fix what isn't broken. Even in the first Sonic the Hedgehog game, literally in the level following Green Hill Zone, it forces the player to slow down and take their time through the level, which just seems antithetical to everything Sonic is, and I'm not sure why they would do this in their first ever outing. But that's just where the problems start. Sonic games ended up being pretty notorious, especially when they moved over to 3D, and there were multiple reasons for this. Sonic Team has a habit of spreading themselves too thin, like for example with Sonic 06. Despite being almost 20 years old at this point, this game left a serious skid mark on the franchise. It was made for Sonic's 15th year anniversary, so you'd think that they would put more care into it, but they ended up splitting up the team so they could work on both Sonic 06 and Sonic and the Secret Rings at the same time. On top of that, they rushed the game to hit the holiday season deadline of 2006, so at the end of the day, the game just isn't actually finished, causing it to have very serious glitches, along with having a buggy camera and extremely long loading screens, on top of the gameplay just not performing well. And unfortunately, Sonic 06 is not the only game that has these problems. Sonic Boom is another notorious example. There's even a well-known glitch when playing as Knuckles where you can literally bypass most of the level.
Sonic Boom is split up into a couple of main hub worlds. The glitch we did here getting to this plane just skipped about 3 or 4 hours of the game. We skipped the entire first hub world.
On the bright side, it did wonders for speedrunning, which I guess is on theme for Sonic, but still not doing much to help Sonic's reputation as a franchise. And then there's the storytelling. They have a habit of being wildly inconsistent. Some are looked back on fondly, like Sonic Adventure 2, and then there's again Sonic 06, where they had the weird idea to have his love interest be a human princess. That was awkward. Sure, these are anthropomorphic characters, but they're still pretty animalistic, so this was just weird. And that's only scratching the surface of all the questionable ideas they've had. A major problem with the writing is that they continuously flanderize the characters. Like for example, when Knuckles is first introduced, he gets tricked by Eggman into allying with him against Sonic, only to stab him in the back later and find out that he was the bad guy all along. So the writers decided that Knuckles is just an idiot, and often make him a jock meathead stereotype. Tails had a whole character arc in the Adventure series where he learns to be brave, but then in games like Sonic Forces he's cowering in fear. And then there's Shadow, who's often relegated to a villain, even though he was originally introduced as an anti-hero, and he has a character arc that gives him a lot of growth, but oftentimes that growth is ignored. So I'm really happy that things have finally gotten back on track with this franchise. While the movie had a rocky start thanks to that questionable character design for Sonic, they really turned things around. In a way, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. The first Sonic movie was largely just James Marsden drives around with a CGI character again, but them changing the character design really built bridges for the audience, and also opened them up to exploring more of Sonic's lore in the sequels. Sonic 2 introducing Tails and Knuckles and had them returning to form was awesome to see. Tails gets to come out of his shell and play to his strengths. And although he's shown to not really be willing to fight, he's not a coward either, and does step up when Sonic needs him. And while Knuckles does still get tricked by Eggman, they show that they have a much better understanding of his character. Knuckles has always been isolated for most of his life, so he has trouble recognizing social cues, and they don't mistake that inexperience with stupidity, which was pretty refreshing. And now we're getting Shadow in the third installment of the films, and I'm really looking forward to it. On top of the movie franchise, we also have Sonic X Shadow Generations, and it's been praised across the board, both with critics and the audience. It helps that the game actually functions the way it's supposed to, but it also has a great story, and I'm really grateful that we finally have writers that seem to really understand this franchise and the characters. We also got a prelude to Sonic X Shadow Generations called Dark Beginnings. It's only a few animated shorts, but I wish we could have gotten a full series out of this. There's so much potential here, and so much they could explore. Like the first episode shows Shadow and Maria hanging out together before the Ark was attacked, something that we never really got to see much of before. And there were so many great moments, like Maria showing Shadow the Aurora Borealis. Imagine a 22-minute episode with this kind of content. I would have loved that. But I am really happy with what we got, and I really hope this sets a precedent going forward for all Sonic media, not just the video games. The animation, the fight choreography, the storytelling, this was absolute cinema if I do say so myself. I also just appreciate how cool they let Shadow be. Like when Shadow caught that missile, and then threw it, and then also made sure that it hit its target. Shadow talks a big game and he absolutely can back it up. So I'm really excited for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and I can't wait to see their take on Shadow. I do hope we see Amy though. She was a big part of Shadow's story in the original Sonic Adventure 2 game, as well as Rouge, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they just used Team Sonic for this. Admittedly a little disappointing, so hopefully we have a lot more surprises in store. They also said that if the movie is successful, they'll have other spin-off movies, like one focusing on Shadow, which I think would make a lot of sense. He is crazy popular right now, and for good reason, and that might give us more opportunities to get Team Dark. Admittedly, I'm more excited for Rouge than Omega, but you know, he's still cool too. They've also said they're going to make content for Silver the Hedgehog. Silver was actually originally introduced in Sonic 06, and even though that game left a lot to be desired, his story was actually pretty interesting. Although they did utilize some of his story elements already in the Knuckles series, like the Flames of Disaster, but maybe we can see that fleshed out more. So there's a lot riding on this film, and I don't see why it wouldn't be successful, but I'm really excited for the Sonic franchise's future. If they can keep up this quality, there's bound to be a lot of really cool projects ahead. So yeah, the future looks pretty bright. What do you guys think of this new direction for Sonic the Hedgehog? And what properties are you most excited for? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to the members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Equestron, Norman Sweetcream, Rabion Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Spam, Lucas Geist, J Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Jin the Goblin, Caleb Nelson, Todd McCaffrey, Killer Bomb, Omri Fair, Crimson Phantom, Data Dine Executive, Owen Wildish, Alto Burrito 9506, Cavalcoge, and Strider Exile. Thank you all so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed this content, you can leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. I'd really appreciate the support. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.